Move on with our next topic. Up next, making his debut on the show, it's Charlie Rowley. And he has set himself the small task of uniting a Conservative Party that's currently fighting like rats in a sack. Charlie, issue your rallying call.
Well, I think it's fair to say that all families row, and the Conservative Party has been no different. Having taken on some of the biggest challenges our country faces over the last 13 years, it's obvious that some of those rows would spill out into the public. But I think it's important to recognise just what the Conservatives have done over the last 13 years and what it can do over the next 5. Under David Cameron, he took the decision to lead a coalition government in the national interest. He dealt with Labour's debts, he got the country and the economy moving, and he took on the party, delivering things like same-sex marriage. He also promised to deliver a referendum. Under Theresa May, she identified that it was those that are just about managing, these people on lower middle incomes that needed support. She identified that there was this social justice agenda that hadn't been tapped into in this country, and it was her mission to try and deal with it. But after a divisive EU referendum, what she was able to do is to keep the party together. And under Boris, the blonde bombshell that has got the political antennae that no one has ever been seen before, he's reached across all parts of the country. The charm, the cheek, the ability to understand what levelling up meant for this country, to roll out the vaccine that was so successful after COVID, to talk tough to Vladimir Putin against the actions that Russia have taken against Ukraine. Boris is part of the success of the Conservative Party. He's part of the success of this country, and he will always remain part of the Conservative family. We have a Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, that is now determined to lead us through the challenges that we face in the future, stopping the small boats, getting the economy moving, dealing with the backlog in the NHS. We must get behind him. I know Boris will do that. Every Conservative in the country will do that, because it's only united that the Conservatives go on to win the next general election, and a win for the Conservatives will be a win for this great country.
Well, Charlie, I mean, stopping the small boats, a lot of my viewers will be sat seething at home saying, hang on a minute, stopping the boats? We've got boatloads coming over just this weekend.
Well, I think it's absolutely vital that, with all the pledges and all the things the government says, people can feel change, they can feel the difference. And I think, look, we have seen those numbers of people coming over into this country illegally. That is wrong. But we have a compassionate Conservative side. It is absolutely right to accept people from Afghanistan, from Syria, from Ukraine, where there is war and conflict. That is absolutely within our heart and in our DNA. But where there are people that are coming to this country illegally, you have to be determined and double down and do more than, frankly, any of the other Conservative governments and any other government previously has done before, which is being tough on deporting people who shouldn't be in this country, but making sure that you've got the people that can do the processing, to make sure that people that do come into this country are not at the behest of the taxpayer that is spending $6 billion on hotel rooms. We need to sort all of that out. But at least it's a step in the right direction, and I think Rishi Sunak is the only one that's been able to grip it.
Alex, are you champing at the bit there to get in?
Oh, Charlie, you're such a nice person.
Just getting on.
I know, but I'm afraid your hope is for the birds, isn't it? A united Conservative Party. Come on, I mean, the Conservatives, I disagree with you. They don't have a legacy, and the reason they don't have a legacy is because all they've been doing is playing parlour games and faction fighting for 13 years. Every time we're on a trajectory to something, there's a change of leadership and a change of direction. Sometimes 3 in a whole year, which hasn't done much favours for our economy, has it? No one's going to invest in a country when you don't even know who the Chancellor is from one day to the next. What I think needs to happen now, quite clearly, is the Conservative Party isn't fit for purpose in its current makeup. It needs to just cleave into two. It needs to forget this broad church idea. Those who actually believe in Brexit, those who actually believe in proper old-school right-wing ideology, come to reform, and at least then voters know what they're voting for. Soft Toryism, fine, vote the Conservatives. You want what you think is conservatism, vote reform. At the moment, you vote the Conservative Party, you don't know what you're going to get. And that is, frankly, an insult to democracy.
The idea, very quickly, that Boris Johnson is ever going to leave the Conservatives and join Reform is to quote back at you, for the birds.
Yeah,
because,
it's a shame.
Reform and UKIP that share ideas can't even share a platform together. So the idea that Boris is somehow going to go and jump to Reform, I think that he is part of the Conservative family, he's part of the success of this country, and he's going to continue to be a part of it.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if a failed politician joined Reform. I call it regurgitating regurgitate UK, frankly, because all of them have come back round in that party. But look, Charlie, I think you could probably fit all the people that agree with you on a small boat. That's how few there are at this stage. The Conservative Party has been through so many different versions of itself in the last 13 years. It seems to have some kind of personality disorder because it can't make its mind up from one moment to the next. And actually, what I'm sick of, and I think a lot of, and here's where I'm sure I'd agree with our own blonde bombshell, I'm sick of their psychodrama running the country instead of ideas and policies. And even though they weren't what I voted for, what many people in the country voted for. Even when Liz Truss came into office and she had all this new set of ideas, and it was like, well, actually, many of those weren't the ones that were voted for 3 years earlier. And now we've got a whole new set with Rishi Sunak. You don't deserve to be in government. You're disrespecting this country.
But I just appeal to people, look, the psychodrama and the Tory changes of leader, hasn't been helpful at all. Of course, it's been chaotic for people, but it is about the ideas and it's about delivery, but it's also being able to adapt. And so when you can confront the challenges that you face, you can be still a traditional, vote blue, go green Conservative. You can care about the environment. You can care for cleaning up the air and clearing out those Just Stop Oil protesters that blight the lives of so many people in society. You can absolutely take on Brexit and exploit the positives of it while still being on the global stage. You can level up, you can invest in the UK as well as being a low-tax Conservative. All of these things are possible. It's not a binary choice.
Well, if they're possible, why haven't the Conservatives been doing any of them for the past 13 years?
It definitely is about the ideas, and we saw this kind of identity politics. I don't want to call it a psychodrama, I will call it an identity crisis. I mean, the Conservative Party in government at the moment, we've got the highest tax burden since the Second World War. We actually had lower taxes under the Labour governments of Tony Blair and Gordon Brown. So I think that fundamentally it's this identity crisis. We need to have these conversations about the ideas, otherwise the party seems to be going in no direction.
Well, I mean, to be fair, taxes were only lower under Tony Blair because he inherited a very good economy after the Tories had sorted it out after years and people trashed it.
I think that's a bit ridiculous given that the economy grew faster than ever for 10 years.
Yes, thanks to the Conservatives sorting it all out.
Thanks to libertarian small state policies.
Tax and
well, they haven't
spend,
exactly done that this time round, have they?
I would accept that. I would totally accept that.
The Conservatives can't keep dining out on Margaret Thatcher. They just can't keep doing that. That was almost 40 years ago now.
I've got a feeling everyone at home is screaming at their televisions, and I think Charlie's been practising that one for a while. So